time against low block in the whole league, and when we do that, we don't create enough high value chances. We create a lot of chances, but of lesser value, and we need to work on that. And I think that's a really important part of if we're looking at the Arsenal way of playing, that we should be better at creating chances against low blocks from more ways than set pieces or crossing situations, and meaning that we will need to improve our way to attack with combination play, attack with playing on the third player, and that part, both we in the coaching staff and the players, we acknowledge that, and we see that, okay, we need to keep improving on that, and not only saying it's efficiency in the final third. That's one part of it, improving our finishing, but another part is to be able to, with the way we play attacking football, to break down on low block and create more high value chances, and we work hard on that in order to keep developing.
And just a final one from me. I think it's a really good decision that the young players on loan at Watford are being allowed to play in this game. Was that an easy decision to make?
No, it wasn't, because I think it's two decisions, it's two mindsets going against each other. One is it's a competitive game, and my first thought when it's a competitive game is that you should do everything in your power to get every inch on your side to do that, because otherwise you wouldn't respect the opposition for it, and I think that would be the worst mistake that you can ever do going into a competitive game. But then comes the other part and saying that these are three players that I believe so much can be first team players for Arsenal women in the future. And the sole reason why we have them on loan at Watford is to get first team experience. And if I then look at it from their perspective, to be able to play in an FA Cup on hopefully a sold out Boreham Wood, that's probably as good as an experience it can be. And if I deny them of that experience, do I also deny them of their potential development? And when I start thinking about those two things, short term and long term, I said, for one of the few times in my career, I'm willing to give up a competitive advantage in order to invest for the future for Arsenal women. So short term, I'm not happy about that decision, because they're three really good players that can cause us problem. But long term, given that I really see the potential in them in being first team players, I think it's the right decisions for it, because it's going to develop them the most.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. We'll come to the call now. Art, do you want to kick us off? Not hearing you, Art. Just check here.
I don't think it's on mute.
No. Okay. I think we can hear you now. Go ahead, mate. Yeah.
Can you repeat that?
What are the attributes that MA brings, particularly unpredictability, and how important would that be for the team?
Yeah, I think how we've seen that the role of the fullback has been developing for us. We need fullbacks that are very comfortable playing both inside and outside, because I think it's very easy to become static in the way that you play if your fullbacks only can be wide. I think that puts a lot of limitations to the way that you can position and the way that you can allow your midfielders to move as well. So in order for us to try and create as much fluidity as possible in attack, which I think is a really important aspect of the way we want to play football as well, having fullbacks that are able to play both wide and on the inside, it's a fundamental part of that. And I think we have three natural fullbacks here now that each one can do that a little bit in their own ways, but both Steph and Katie and Emily is comfortable doing that. So I think that's a very good situation for us.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the talk throughout the season has been about when you get the injured players back, they'll almost be like new signings, and everyone's said you've had a lot of players to choose from, mostly in forward areas. When you look at that defence for the second half of the season, how encouraging is it that Leah's almost back and you'll have another fullback at some point in Laura as well?
That is really good. I think sometimes what people underestimate in this, and why we need to work very hard in the season we're doing that, is that it's a difference between return to play and return to the level that you had before the injury. Those two things doesn't necessarily happen at the same time. Like when an injured player is coming back, you need to invest game time in her in order to get that level. And that investment is easy to do in pre-season, for example, and it's harder to do when it's in competitive games. And I think that's one of the things that I've been very pleased about if I see the autumn, is to see like how did we integrate players like Beth Mead and started to integrate a player like Viviane Miedema for it and invest in game minutes into that. And of course we're yielding the return of that later, but you don't get it immediately. And we will need to do the same thing with Leah Williamson and Laura Wienreuter as well. So it's very pleasing, but we need to make sure that we invest the minutes in them so they go back to the level where they really can contribute to the team as well. So I think that's sometimes the overlooked aspect of it. You always think that the worst season is when you lose the players to injuries, and sort of it is. But the hangover effect of that is that you also need to integrate players and invest minutes to them before they will go back to their level of play that they had before their injury, which will naturally take time because you've been away for a long time, and that's not anything specific to Arsenal. That's for all players being out with long-term injuries.
Cheers, Jonas.
Thanks.
Thanks. I've got a couple more minutes. Dan?
Hey, Jonas, hope you're well. It's been a difficult season for Watford, so I just kind of wonder what you're expecting from them this weekend.
I think they've been true to their style of play. I think they're brave. I think they're keeping their heads up high. I think they know that with some of the injuries they have had and so on, that's been quite hard on them, and they probably could have had a couple of more points in the championship as well. So I think they keep believing. They knew this was not going to be an easy season from a result perspective in the championship, but I think actually they go in with a lot of belief into the last half of the season, and I think they can rightfully do so.
That's brilliant. Thanks. Best of luck for the weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Tom Gary?
Hi, Jonas. Thanks for your time. Just wanted to ask one more question about Emily's arrival, if that's okay. Did you, at any stage, maybe seek feedback from Lotta and Alessia about playing with North Carolina, and maybe just how much that helped, if at all, in the research around signing it?
No, of course I did that. I think that's a really important part of the way when we try to recruit players, that we're not only recruiting football players. First and foremost, we're recruiting persons into our environment. So, of course, when we see the football qualities that they are there, we spend time speaking to former teammates, coaches, national team coaches, other persons that might have been working with the players to try and get us a complete picture as possible. So we know that it's a good person coming into our group, and I mean, Lotta and Alessia knew a lot about Emily beforehand, so of course we spoke to them as well.